Hello, welcome back. We're going to finish up Module 6 today, and it's going to be a lot of videos. I'm sorry, because Lesson 5 is really long. I think it's like 30 pages long, so we are going to have a lot of videos. And my new video camera that I bought only lets me do 15-minute videos, so yeah, I'm sorry, but there will be a lot. So let's go ahead and get started. I have your new notes posted on the Canvas homepage. If you found these videos, you probably found the notes. So you'll want to print those out ahead of time. Lesson 4 is where we learn about functions. We found the definition and defined that in our last lesson, where we said a function is where every x value is assigned exactly one y value. So the notation we use for functions is this. So it's read f of x, and usually of in math means multiplication, but in this case it does not. It's just a notation. So f of x is used in place of y. If I were going to graph this, y equals mx plus b, it's the exact same graph I would get from f of x equals 2x plus 1. So whenever students say, oh, I don't understand what function notation is, I just say, when you see a function notation, it's just replacing y. It's the exact same thing. But it tells the reader when they look at it that when you go to draw the graph will be a function. We call x the independent variable, or another one is input variable. And y is called the dependent variable, and it's the output. And the way I remember these, because students are always like, I can't remember whether x is independent or y, I tell them, think about a t-table. When you made a t-table back when you were drawing lines, you put all the x's in and you could pick any x's you want. That's called being independent. But y depended on what x's you put in that t-table. So that's how I remember which one's which. So you may be able to think of a better trick for you, but that's how you can keep them apart maybe. So this is read f of x, but remember it does not mean f times x. And y is the same thing as f of x. So they're just interchanged. You can do either notation. Just the f of x notation tells the reader, like I said, that what they're sketching is a graph. There's also other reasons to use function notation. This means it's read f of 5, and it means replace x with 5 and find the resulting y or function value. If I didn't use that notation, I'd have to write all this out every time. Now I can just say find f of 5, and then you need to know they took the x out, replaced it with 5, and you can see that x is always what's in parentheses. So the input is inside the parentheses. The output is what you get for the answer, and it's y. So this means replace x with 5 and find y, or what we call the function value. So here's my f of x equals 2x plus 1. So everywhere I see an x, I'm going to put 5 in. So f of 5 equals 2 times 5 plus 1. 10 plus 1 is 11, so that means f of 5 equals 11. So not only does it save a lot of writing, I can just write f of 5, it also gives me a point on the graph, because whatever's in parentheses, as I told you, is the x, and the answer is always your y. So I know the order pair 5, 11 is on my graph, because this is my x, this is my y, or this is my input, this is my output. So that's kind of cool. Lots of reasons to use function notation. Let the reader know they're graphing a function. Shortcut way, instead of having to write this big sentence out, just write find f of 5. And then last, when you get the answer gives you the first order pair on the graph. And just the biggest thing to remember is whatever's in the x is all, whoops, I said that wrong. Whatever's in the parentheses is always the x value. Okay, so evaluate f of x at the given values, and we do have some of these on the test, so these would be good ones to highlight. I think we have 3 or 4 of them, and you'll see you have your chapter 6 practice test. You'll see some of those. So evaluate, and then it says at the end of the problem, write the corresponding ordered pair. So we need to find the answer and write it using function notation like we did up here. And then we need to write the ordered pair. So those are the 2 things the directions are asking us. So f of 0 means make x 0. So 3 times 0 minus 8, that's going to be 0 minus 8 is negative 8. So then my final answer is f of 0 equals negative 8. So this is called finding the function value. Then it asked us to write an ordered pair, so let's do the ordered pairs out to the side. So that would be x, y. Input, output. What did I put in? What did I get out? So 0, negative 8. And you'll never switch the order because x is always what's in parentheses and y is always the answer. So f of 0 equals negative 8. That's called your function value. And then it said to write your ordered pair, and this is your ordered pair, just so everybody's clear on the vocab. Okay, f of negative 2, that would be go into the equation and replace x with negative 2. It is 3 times x, so you're multiplying, and because it's a negative, it does need to be in parentheses. Did everybody know that? Anytime you input a negative, it must be in parentheses. Otherwise, how would you tell multiplication apart from subtraction? So every single time your input or your x is negative, make sure you put it in parentheses. So you can either do these on your calculator or in your head. Negative 6 and negative 8 is negative 14. So my function value, when I evaluate the function f at negative 2, my output is negative 14. So the function value is negative 14, and then it asks us to write the order pair. So when x is negative 2, y is negative 14. Sorry about that, kind of ran into the letters there because of the hole. And last but not least, f of 4 means when x is 4, find y. So 3 times 4. And this one, it's a positive, so I don't need parentheses. I could use them, but I can just use a dot as well. And that's 12 minus 8, which is 4. So that means my function evaluated at x equals 4 is going to give me a function value of 4. So my input is 4 and my output is 4 on this one. So the ordered pair would just be 4, 4. So now I would turn off your video, do this side all by yourself and make sure you understand how to do these, and then turn it back on and check with me. Okay, for f of 0, that means plug 0 in for x, so I get negative 0 squared minus 3 times 0. So 0 minus 0 is 0. So that means f of 0 is 0. Excuse me. And the order pair that goes with that is 0, 0, or the origin. Okay, this is the tricky one, so be careful. Hopefully you did this one correctly. So we have a negative out in front. And then remember how I said anytime your input is negative, it needs to be in parentheses? So what I've noticed is Students don't put the parentheses or they go, oh, double negative positive. Just write it out, then work it. Don't do any add the opposite. In fact, on ones like this, I would probably put it in the calculator. But even more important is you have to be able to write it correctly in order for you to type it into the calculator correctly. So you have the minus out in front. Then you're inputting a negative, which needs to be in parentheses, and then subtract 3 parentheses negative 1. So I'm going to do it by hand first, and then I am going to show you how to do it on your calculator. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally requires that you do exponents. Well, there's no parentheses, anything to do inside parentheses, so second level's exponents. So this is negative 1 times negative 1, which is positive 1. That means add a negative. So you get, I'm going to move this one down so we have a little bit more room. So when you do it by hand, you get negative 1. So this gives me positive 1, and that says change the sign. And then I have a negative 3 times a negative 1, which is positive 3. So that is 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. So that means f of negative 1 is 2. And I will tell you that one is missed a lot on the test. Just because of that right there. So now let me show you how to do it on your calculator. So we have minus, which is a negative, not a subtraction. So go down to the bottom row, negative, then your parentheses, and then another negative 1, and then close your parentheses. This is how you get x squared. See how it says x squared? And then this is subtraction. It's the only subtraction sign in the whole problem. So you should actually use this key, subtract 3, parentheses, then go back down to the negative at the bottom of the white row, 1, and then close your parentheses. Hit enter, boom, there's the 2 we just got. So on a test, you should probably do whatever you're best at. If you're really good at doing it in your head, then do it in your head, and show your steps like me. If you're better at the calculator, then just make sure you have it written correctly, then type it in the calculator. This is your work step for the test. I'm going to have you take pictures of your work and send those to me after you're done with the test. So this is your work step. So that must be shown, and then you can either do it by hand or use a calculator. If I had enough time, I would do it both ways just to make sure I'm correct. But lots of times we don't have that extra time. Okay, let's go ahead and do this next one. So we have a negative, and then it's 2 squared minus 3 times 2. So this does not mean negative 2 times negative 2. In fact, if you wanted, you could even do this to show that that's totally separate. Only the x is squared, not the negative. So this is 2 times 2, 4, add the negative. So that would be negative 4 minus 6. So that means f of 2 is negative 10. So 2 times 2 is 4, make it negative. So negative 4 minus 6, negative 10. And I think I forgot the order pair here. So negative 1, 2 for this one. And then this one is going to be 2, negative 10. So that's pretty easy, right? Just have to be careful with that negative in front. That just means whatever x is, square it, and then change the sign. In other words, the first term will always be negative because when you square something, it's always positive. So that makes it negative then at the end. So this next one is just testing your understanding of function notation. And I see I'm running out of video time, so I'll start it on the next video.